I never thought a $2 dog would teach a lonely mountain man the true meaning of love. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. I stood on the edge of the world, surrounded by towering pines and the whisper of the wind. My heart was heavy, echoing with loss of a love I never thought I'd lose. All I had was myself and this empty cabin. The silence crushed me, wrapping around my chest like a python. It was suffocating. And then there was the moment, that afternoon, as I trudged down the dirt road, my hands trembling in the cold, I caught sight of her. A scruffy little thing, covered in dirt and matted fur. She was sitting by the side of the road, eyes wide and filled with a mixture of fear and hope. I stooped down, heart racing. This tiny creature was all alone, just like me. I didn't know where she came from, but she needed help. $2 was all I had left at the moment, sitting in my pocket like a forgotten secret. I plucked it out, a shimmering beacon of hope, and made the craziest decision of my life. I gave that poor little dog the only cash I had, thinking she was worth every penny and more. As I held her in my arms, I sensed a strange connection. It was as if she understood my pain, as if she knew I was a ghost in my own life, haunting these mountains alone. I named her Daisy. The next few days were a whirlwind of emotion. Daisy was full of quirks. She would dart from shadow to shadow, chasing the light that broke through the canopy of trees. Her bark shattered the quietness and brought me back from the edge. I was learning to smile again. But something mysterious lay beneath her playful exterior. I felt it in the air. She watched me closely, as if gauging my heart, piecing together fragments of my soul. As the days crawled by, I noticed strange occurrences. Daisy would wake at odd hours, staring out into the abyss as if she sensed something lurking in the shadows. I'd follow her gaze, my breath hitching in my throat, but nothing was there. Just the wind, pulling at the branches like a child tugging on a parent's sleeve. I shook it off. It was the stillness of my isolation playing tricks on my mind. Yet I couldn't shake that feeling. Just when I thought peace was settling in, one chilling night changed everything. I awoke to Daisy's frantic barking, her little body quivering next to me. I held her tightly, but the tremors continued. A heavy silence enveloped the cabin. My heart raced as I heard rustling outside. I cautiously opened the door, the hinges creaking. What stood before me stopped my heart in an instant. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The door creaked open, revealing the darkness beyond the forest, thick and ancient. The moon hung low, casting eerie shadows that danced around us. Just as I instinctively stepped back, Daisy slipped from my arms and darted out into the night, her small shape quickly swallowed by the void. Panic surged within me. Daisy! Come back! I called, my voice cracking under the weight of fear. That I stumbled into the night after her, the cold air biting at my skin. The forest was alive with rustles and whispers, and all I could hear was my heartbeat drumming loudly in my ears. I followed her bark, a desperate sound that echoed through the trees, leading me deeper into the dark. Please, Daisy! I begged. Don't go too far. As I pushed through the underbrush, my heart raced, not just for her safety but also for what may lie ahead. I wasn't just a man lost in the wilderness, I was a man haunted by his past, and shadows of memories I thought I had buried began to stir. Then, through the veil of trees, I saw her facing off against something in the night. My heart dropped. A figure loomed, large and menacing, and I froze in horror, dread crawling along my skin as I quietly assessed the scene. Suddenly, Daisy, true to her spirited nature, stood her ground. I felt a wave of pride well up within me. She was so small, yet she faced this unknown beast with bravery that belied her size. The figure shifted, and I saw a glimpse of fur, perhaps a wild animal, but I couldn't tell. There was a tension in the air, as if nature itself held its breath. "Daisy, come." I urged, my voice barely above a whisper, but she remained steadfast, torn between fear and loyalty. Instinctively, I took a step toward her, feigning courage, with the weight of dread pressing down like a heavy shroud, but as I reached out, the figure revealed itself. A deer, startled but unharmed. Relief washed over me, but it was fleeting. Daisy, emboldened by her moment of bravery, darted past the deer, chasing after the fluttering leaves that danced away from her. I called out again, panic rising like bile in my throat as she raced farther into the trees. "Daisy! Get back here!" I shouted, my voice breaking as I ran after her, the branches clawing at my clothes and skin. Each minute felt like an eternity, and the darkness loomed ever closer, shadows entwining with my memories that threatened to engulf me once more. Finally, after what felt like a lifetime, I spotted her small form silhouetted against the backdrop of the trees, circling around a withered old stump. I rushed to her, wrapping her in my arms, and we collapsed onto the forest floor, both of us panting. Her warm breath fogged in the chilly air, and I held her tighter, the heartbeat of this unexpected bond filling the loneliness in my chest. "Please don't run off like that again," I whispered, pressing my forehead against her furry head. In her eyes, I glimpsed a glimmer of understanding, a reflection of the fears we both held. As I gathered the strength to stand, a rustle caught my attention deeper in the woods. My breath hitched as I glanced over my shoulder, the instinctual fear gnawing at my gut. Out from the shadows stepped a woman, a figure cloaked and shrouded, yet unmistakably human. Her presence felt inexplicably familiar, but nothing made sense. "Hello," she said softly, her voice a soothing balm to the unsettling tension. I staggered back, my heart racing, unsure whether I should run or strike a conversation. "I've been looking for you," she continued, her gaze piercing into the depths of my soul, as if she were unearthing secrets I'd hidden away. Confusion knotted itself in my stomach. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice shaking. Daisy whimpered, nestled against my leg, sensing my agitation. "That I am someone who knows," she replied, stepping closer, the moon illuminating her face. It was a face that danced on the edges of familiarity, a face I hadn't seen in years, yet it struck a chord deep within me. "I know your pain, your loss, and I know, Daisy." That my heart raced, a swell of emotions crashing over me. "What do you mean?" I asked, the breath barely escaping my lips. "There's a reason you found her," the woman stated, her gaze unwavering. "She was meant to lead you." "Lead me where?" My mind raced as if I were teetering on the edge of an unseen precipice, the weight of the moment pressing down hard, but her reply vanished into the night, lost among the whispering winds. Just then, the air turned electric, filled with a surge of knowing. And as I turned to Daisy, her little bark climbed into the night, echoing a connection I had yet to understand but felt deeply in my Bonisa, a connection that was just beginning to illuminate a path filled with unexpected truths, bittersweet memories, and hauntingly beautiful revelations. The candle of hope flickered dimly, battling the shadows that sought to engulf us, and just like that, everything spiraled once more into uncertainty, spinning toward a destiny I couldn't yet comprehend. The forest air grew thick, heavier now with uncertainty as I stood frozen, caught between the weight of the woman's gaze and the palpable need to protect Daisy. The flickering light of the moon scattered fragments of brightness around us, but the shadows were insistent, lurking at the edges, whispering memories I couldn't afford to acknowledge. "Lead me where?" I repeated, urgency tinging my voice. The question hung between us, taut and electric. I searched her eyes for a tether, a sign that I could grasp onto to pull myself from the depths of confusion. But her expression remained unwavering, as if she were contemplating a truth that trembled in the balance. "Back to yourself," she replied, her voice warm yet laden with an unsettling weight. "But first, you must confront what you've run from for so long." That I felt a surge of defensiveness leap within my ears, spent trying to keep distant the ghosts of my past, the bitterness of loss, the guilt that wrapped itself around my heart like a barbed vine. "I've moved on," I spat out, a reflexive denial. But the words tasted bitter, and even as I said them, my own heart knew the lie. Daisy nuzzled against my leg, her warm breath providing a momentary anchor in that harrowing space. I looked down at her, and in her loyalty rested an ember of hope. Perhaps she wasn't merely a pet but a bridge back to the parts of me I had abandoned. The woman smiled softly, understanding seeping through the intensity of her gaze. You've carried the weight of your past for too long. She's here to remind you of what you are capable of: love and connection. A lump swelled in my throat, the vulnerability of it suffocating. Love felt foreign. After loss, I had convinced myself that it would never find its way back to me. And yet, here I stood, in a world cloaked in darkness, learning to grasp at the very light I feared might burn me. What if I'm not strong enough? I breathed, my voice cracking as the confession tore itself from a hidden pit. What if it all falls apart again? The woman took a step forward, each movement purposeful, her presence calming the chaos within. You're not meant to do this alone. You have a partner now, she said, inclining her head toward Daisy, who wagged her tail in response as if she understood every word exchanged. That tiny joy, that simple act, drew a smile from the depths of my heart, the first in a very long time. Yet doubt lingered, like mist seeping through trees, blurring my vision with memories of despair. Suddenly, the forest around us seemed to shudder, the winds swirling with an urgency, and I felt the raw weight of the night settle heavier. There are dangers yet to come, and the shadows will reach for you, the woman warned, her brow nodding in concern, an echo of storms long past that I had tried to ignore. But you must not be afraid, what you truly seek lies just beyond that fear. Before I could respond, a low growl came from the thicket behind us, sending chills dancing along my spine. The woman's expression shifted to one of resolution, her stance brimming with urgency. We need to go, now. Instinctively, I wrapped my arm tighter around Daisy, whose small body quivered against me. My heart raced as the shadows seemed to thicken and close in, a palpable presence of unease sinking into the air like a thick fog. We moved deeper into the woods, the light of the moon barely breaking through the canopy above. My breath echoed in the growing silence, punctuated only by the rustling leaves and the faint sound of our footsteps. The woman led the way, her silhouette dancing between solid trees, her purpose guiding us away from whatever darkness might pursue. A sudden thought struck me, fierce and desperate, as we ventured deeper. What do you know about me? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Why do you want to help me? Her gaze didn't falter, and something unspoken passed between us, a moment of truth that transcended speech. You are not alone in this, she said, each word a grounding ritual I desperately sought. You felt so isolated, and yet, your journey cannot go unshared. As long as Daisy walks beside you, know that you carry more than just your burdens. But I couldn't bring myself to let the hope bloom, not just yet. Another growl broke through the oppressive silence, deeper this time, a harbinger of something unfathomable pursuing us. My heart raced as panic threatened to overwhelm me again. Faster! The woman urged, her eyes scanning the darkness, determination etched into her features like stone. We pushed forward, my senses heightened, aware that each rustle in the leaves signaled the approach of forces I didn't understand. Just as I thought we might escape the shadows encroaching, a branch snapped loudly behind us. I turned, and the sight chilled me. Emerging from the trees was a figure cloaked in shadows, tall and looming, a malevolence dripping from its edges. My breath hitched, and my hand tightened reflexively around Daisy. What is that? I gasped, fear coiling tightly in my chest. But the woman's gaze remained steady. What you fear most? And just like that, the path before me blurred, the flickering candle of hope threatened to extinguish a revelation that came crashing down like a wave, leaving me struggling for the breath with which to fight back against the rising tide of darkness pulling at my feet. The figure stepped into the dim moonlight, and I could make out its features if they were features at all. The darkness clung to it like a second skin, writhing and shifting, obscuring any solid shape. The growls morphed into whispers that echoed in my mind, a cacophony of fears that had long been buried. I felt the weight of the woman's presence beside me, a fierce bastion of courage against the shadowy entity that loomed before us. Don't let it in, she urged softly, her voice steady despite the swirling energy around us. Remember, It's only as powerful as you allow it to be, but as I stood paralyzed, caught between the instinct to flee and the necessity to confront my fears, I could feel the darkness digging its claws into my resolve. I glanced down at Daisy, her small form trembling, and I was reminded of the love and loyalty she offered so freely, something I had almost forgotten existed. "Daisy," I murmured, feeling the rush of my own panic settle in the warmth radiated from her body. Her gaze met mine, eyes wide and trusting, filled with a clarity I desperately craved. A realization struck me then: I couldn't let this darkness define me. "Not again, let's go," I shouted, urgency flooding my veins as I felt the shadows shift in response. Together, we turned, the woman leading our escape as we plunged further into the depths of the forest. I could hear the creature's growls receding behind us, but the shadow had not vanished. It pursued us, a relentless specter clinging to my heels that we sprinted, the moonlight illuminating our path intermittently through the tangled branches that echoed with our hurried footsteps. My heart pounded, not just against my ribs but against the brewing storm within of longing, fear, and an unsettling gust of hope. As we ran, I began to see small pockets of light breaking through the darkness, the soft glow of fireflies dancing among the trees, their luminescence gentle and inviting. It was a reminder that even in the bleakest moments, flickers of hope existed, waiting to be grasped. "Just a little longer," the woman urged, her voice unwavering amidst the chaos. "You're stronger than you know. You hold the light within you." Despite my fear, her words gave me a spark of courage. I thought of the love Daisy had brought back into my life, how her mere presence challenged the shadows that whispered I was unworthy of joy. As we raced, the forest opened up before us, and I could see a faint clearing bathed in moonlight. Without thinking, I grabbed Daisy tightly in my arms, fear shifting into determination. "Stay close to me." With renewed energy, we dashed toward the light. But just as we reached the edge of the clearing, the ground trembled beneath our feet. The creature, relentless and furious, surged into view, its form now definite, a mass of twisted shadows creeping closer. Hungry and eager that I stumbled, feeling the weight of my past crashing over me, each regret and fear clinging like the thorns of a bramble. "I can't," I gasped, falling to my knees as despair threatened to swallow me whole. But the woman was there, pulling me to my feet with an iron grip, her eyes fierce and unwavering. "You can. You are not defined by your past. You carry the strength of all you've loved and lost." I looked down again at Daisy, whose tail flicked in defiance despite the encroaching terror. That small gesture ignited something within me, a flicker of resistance against the overwhelming storm of despair. I had walls built high against the world, brick upon brick of sorrow and heartache, but damming them felt remotely possible. If I could just stand and face this manifestation of everything I feared, maybe I could find a way through the storm. As the creature lunged toward us, primal instincts ignited a mix of fear for myself and fierce protection of Daisy. I took a step forward, hesitating only for a moment before proclaiming, "You do not own me." In response, a rush of warmth enveloped me, emanating from Daisy, grounding me, tethering me back to the present. It urged me to channel the love I thought I had lost. I took a deep breath, feeling the energy around us shift. The shadows writhed and recoiled, as if sensing my newfound resolve. The darkness whispering doubts were suddenly devoid of power, but then, a startling realization struck me, a memory long buried, a truth I had evaded. Just beyond the clearing, rooted in the soil and deeply intertwined with my heart, lay the truth I had spent years burying. I had lost more than a love, I had lost my faith in the possibility of connection. Before I could process this revelation, a deafening roar echoed from the creature, reverberating through the environment as it lunged forward again, fingers of shadow stretching with violent abandon. The tug of fear increased, but my gaze remained fixed on Daisy, and I knew that surrendering was not an option. Suddenly, the woman stepped between us and the looming darkness, her presence unwavering, a beacon even amidst the chaos. "Hold on to each other," she cried, the power within her voice surging against the fray, igniting courage against fear. With that, I reached for her hand, gripping tightly. Daisy nestled in my other arm, and together we stood against the encroaching nightmare. Just as the shadows threatened to swallow us whole, the clearing erupted in light. The fireflies surged, swirling together in a brilliant display that lit the darkness, illuminating the creature momentarily. In that moment of clarity, I saw it not as a monster to flee from, but as a piece of myself I needed to confront the fragments locked away in my heart. But just as quickly as thoughts began to crystallize, the creature roared, and the light flickered, dimming as if in response to a silent call from deep within the forest. "Hold strong!" the woman shouted over the chaos, her voice breaking through the fear. And then, everything contracted into a single moment of chilling clarity. The true nature of my darkest fear lay not just in loss but also in the redemption I fought so long to reject. Just before the tide of shadows enveloped us, I turned to the woman, desperation lacing my voice. "What do I need to do?" But before she could reply, everything faded in a cacophony of darkness, and the weight of an unending silence pressed around USA silence that threatened to smother the flickering light we had fought to hold on to. I blinked, the world slowly coming back into focus, dim light creeping in from an unknown source. The silence was almost suffocating, void of any sounds of the forest, of Daisy's soft panting, of the frantic rustling we had caused in our desperate escape. My heart raced as I regained my senses, the gnawing fear settling like a lead weight in my chest. Where was the woman? Where was Daisy? The shadows had receded to the edges of my vision, like dark ink bleeding away from a page, but I could still feel their presence vibrating at the edges of my mind. I pushed myself to sit up, muscles protesting and trembling from exertion. The clearing was gone, replaced by a dense fog that enveloped everything, dulling my senses. I called out, the hollowness of my voice echoing back at me, "Daisy." The sound cracked as it escaped my lips, desperation pouring into each syllable. But only silence answered. An icy chill crawled down my spine, dragging my fears back up to the surface. Had the creature taken her? Had it taken the woman? Reality felt malleable, every sense in my body tingling with uncertainty and fear. The world around me was a jigsaw puzzle missing pieces, and I was caught in an endless loop of panic and frustration. Just then, a soft whimper broke through the fog, and I jolted to my feet, heart racing at the faint sound. "Daisy!" I rushed forward, propelled by instinct rather than rational thought. The fog parted slowly, revealing shapes and impressions, but nothing concrete. My focus narrowed, eyes squinting against the shroud as I searched for any sign of her. The whimper came again, closer now. I stumbled forward, desperation mounting as I stumbled through the heavy mist. And there, at my feet, I saw her, Daisy, curled tightly, her eyes wide and glistening. Relief surged through me, but it was quickly eclipsed by the realization of her trembling body. I knelt beside her, gathering her up into my arms. "It's okay, girl. I've got you," I whispered, cradling her against my chest. Her warmth enveloped me, grounding me amidst the chaos brewing in my mind. But I dropped my gaze, searching the fog, the weight of dread settling back over me. The stillness pressed heavily, drawing out every fear I had tucked away and forcing them to the forefront. The shadows hovered at the edges of my thoughts, whispering doubts that threatened to pull me under once again. I had faced darkness before, but this was different. This was a confrontation not just with outside forces but with the darkness that I had buried deep within me, failures, my loneliness, and the yearning for connection I had long ignored. That I peered into the endless void, hating the way it beckoned to me, whispering sweet lies of solitude and safety. "You're better off alone," it hissed. "No one can hurt you if you don't let them in." But Daisy's warmth reminded me of the truth. She depended on me, reflecting a love I had thought lost, and that spark, faint but unmistakable, was enough to ignite a flicker of courage. I remembered the woman's insistence, her unwavering strength in the face of despair. "You are not defined by your past." The words echoed back to me, resonating through the dense fog. "Daisy," I said, my voice steadying as I looked into her trusting eyes. "I'll find a way through this. I promise." And just as those words left my lips, the fog thickened around us, morphing into flowing tendrils of darkness that coiled and twisted, wrapping around everything with menace. The growls returned, no longer distant but all around us, intensifying with knowledge of a relentless truth looming beyond the mist. This was not just my battle, I felt the weight of lost connection, the souls of others entwined in my fear. But if I could confront the shadows, if I could embrace the pain and allow it to transform rather than consume, maybe there was still a path forward. With renewed resolve, I stood tall, holding Daisy close as I ventured deeper into the shifting fog, forcing my legs to push through the weight of despair. "Show yourself!" I shouted, voice echoing back to me. But instead of the creature, a figure emerged. From the murky depths, barely illuminated but unmistakably human, staring back at me, its expression filled with something I couldn't quite place. The woman, her eyes fierce yet kind, emerged from the mist, a glimmer of light reflecting against her determined expression. I felt a swell of hope at seeing her again, a reminder that I wasn't alone in this fight, but then she opened her mouth, and my heart sank as the words fell like stones into the silence. "You have to confront what you've been running from. The darkness doesn't just hide in the shadows, it thrives in our hearts, in our silence. To confront it, you must let go of the pain you've been holding." Her words were like a dagger, they cut deep, pulling me back into the recesses of my mind where pain intertwined with grief. "You must make a choice," she said, an edge of urgency creeping into her voice. "Everything that you are, everything that you've lost, it brings forth a power that can shatter the darkness. But you must be willing to face all of it, embrace it." Could I do that? Could I stumble through the fog of my past, confront the emotions that had haunted me for so long? "Daisy," I murmured, looking down at my loyal companion, the embodiment of unconditional love. She lifted her gaze, tail wagging gently as if to reassure me, and in that moment, I felt a surge of clarity. The love I had fought so desperately to find again could not exist without vulnerability. But as I prepared to respond, shadows surged from the depths around us, coiling tighter, and the woman's expression shifted from fierce to fearful. "You must decide fast." The darkness grows stronger, the cold tendrils of shadow brushed against my skin, unyielding and cold, wrapping tightly around my heart as doubt crept back in. But there was no going back. I took a deep breath, heart pounding, and whispered through the weight of fear that clung to me. "Then I will face it." Suddenly, the fog parted with a shriek, unraveling like a fraying thread as the figure of the creature emerged, more defined and looming than ever. Its piercing gaze met mine, and in that moment, I saw it a reflection not of a monster, but of the pain I had buried, the fears I was too ashamed to admit. Fear crashed through me like an icy wave, but I knew now I had to challenge it. "I will not give in," I declared, gripping Daisy tighter. But before I could take another step, the shadows converged around us, twisting violently as my resolve was tested. The woman stood her ground, and something in me screamed that I needed to join her. Just as I reached toward her, I felt the shadows lashing out, tendrils snaking toward Daisy, the embodiment of love I'd so desperately tried to protect. "No!" I cried out, horror gripping my chest as the darkness threatened to engulf what I cherished the most. From deep within, a flicker of warmth ignited love, igniting hope, and I screamed, "I'm coming for you." And then, as the shadows pulled tighter, reality shifted, and everything collapsed into an abyss of blinding light, shattering the silence and turning the world to chaos. In that moment, it felt as if everything was about to change. The world exploded into a cacophony of light and noise, sending every sense reeling as I struggled to maintain my footing. Colors blended into an iridescent swirl, and I felt myself floating, suspended between reality and something unnameable that danced on the edges of my mind. It was as if I were caught in a turbulent dream, where each pulse of light echoed the beating of my heart. Then came the feeling of feeling, a liberating rush that swept through me. I gasped, thoughts racing. Daisy! Where was she? The moment of clarity I had clung to was lost in the chaos. I opened my mouth to scream her name but found that I couldn't form the words. It was as if the very sound had been trapped in a net woven from my own fear. The chaos swirled around me, transforming the world I had known into an eerily beautiful landscape of shimmering shrouds and shadowy depths. Frantically, I reached out, my heart pounding against the uncertainty of what lay ahead. Just then, a familiar warmth pressed against my side, and I knew Daisy was beside me, her heartbeat a constant reminder that I was not alone. "Daisy." My voice pierced through the confusion, gaining strength even as chaos enveloped us. I could feel her calmness flowing into me, grounding me in that whirlwind a tether to which I could cling. The discordant sounds began to recede, softening to whispers that urged me to find clarity amidst turmoil. As the brilliant light began to soften, I glimpsed figures emerging from the shadows, their outlines blurring into one another, morphing and shifting constantly. Among them, I recognized the woman, the fierce protector with a heart made of fire. But just behind her loomed a creature of shadow, its form twisting, revealing glimpses of memories etched into my mind like scars. The memories crashed over methods of lost friends, moments of connection, laughter turned to silence. I felt the weight of each loss, like stones sinking deep into a riverbed, pulling me down. But entwined with those memories was a sense of resilience, the assertion that despite the darkness that surrounded me, there was light to be found, to a warmth that flickered just beyond my reach. You must remember, the woman urged, her voice resonating with urgency. Remember why you are here. There is a choice to make, and it lies within the depths of your heart. In that moment, recognition struck me like lightning. The choice was not about confronting shadows, it was about embracing the bonds of love woven through my past. I was not meant to bear my burdens alone. Daisy, the woman, even the fleeting memories, they were threads of hope that knitted the fabric of my soul. The shadows lunged, a fierce tide threatening to swallow the light that remained, and I felt panic rise within me, but instead of retreating, a wave of defiance surged forth. I choose love. I choose connection. I shouted, taking a bold step forward, courage ripping through the veil of despair. Daisy barked, her voice harmonizing with mine, and in that moment of unison, I felt the power of our bond enveloping us like a cocoon, pushing back against the encroaching darkness. The tendrils hesitated, its fraying edges fading under the weight of our determination, but the shadows surged again, a frenzy rising as if angered by our defiance. I clenched my fists, drawing Daisy closer, and dared to take another step toward the woman who still stood resolute amid the chaos. Together! I yelled, my voice echoing through the unsettling world, scarcely believing the words as they left my lips, and then, like a symphony building to a crescendo, the memories burst free from their restraints, flooding my consciousness, a kaleidoscope of joy, sorrow, hope, and love. Each one coiled around the shadows, dragging them down as light cascaded from my heart, illuminating the way forward. But just as a glimpse of clarity began to settle in, I felt a tremor beneath my feet, the ground giving way like the fragile layers of my emotional facade. The struggle was alive, each second bringing forth a battle between dark and light, reminding me that the very essence of love had the power to shatter despair. With one final push, I summoned all the energy within me, drawing into the essence of every relationship I had nurtured, from fleeting acquaintances to bonds woven deep into my soul. In love, there is strength. I cried, and as the shadows recoiled, mustering one last desperate attack, everything shifted again in a violent flash, and then the light enveloped us, blinding and pure, a warmth that pulled my heartstrings as reality shifted once more. When the brilliance began to fade, I found myself standing in tranquil silence once again. The thick fog was gone, replaced by soft sunlight filtering through trees, each beam wrapping around me like a warm embrace. I was back in the forest, but it was different. The air was alive with whispers of hope, an echo of love blooming in every corner, but there was no sign of Daisy. Panic clawed at my throat as I spun around, searching through the serene beauty of the woods, my heart hammering. Daisy! I called, but the only response was an echo of my desperation returning to me, an unanswered prayer spiraling into the distance, and then I heard a faint whimper, a sound carried by the gentle breeze. My heart dropped, eyes widening as I followed the sound, fighting against the growing dread that coiled tighter within me. No. Not again, Daisy. I breathed, rushing forward toward the sound, the earth beneath my feet firm yet unforgiving. Each step felt heavier, laced with the weight of uncertainty that loomed over me like a shroud. I faced the shadows. I confronted my fears. I thought I emerged victorious. But with every heartbeat, the growing fear gnawed at my spirit. What if the creature had taken her away from me? And just as that thought latched onto my mind, a surge of unease washed over me. I rounded a tree, its bark towering and massive, and there she was, lying beneath its branches, her eyes twinkling with the gleam of recognition that I dove forward, my heart racing, relief washing over me like the gentle flow of water. "Daisy!" I cried, gathering her into my arms. But in that moment of solace, a new reality unfurled like a dark cloud above me. A memory from the depths of my past came rushing back, a chilling truth long buried that would shatter everything. What if I had never truly let go? What if the shadows I had confronted were just a reflection of the darkness lying dormant within my heart, waiting to consume everything once again? And just as I wrestled with that overwhelming truth, the sharp crack of a twig echoed behind me, and dread flooded through my veins. I turned slowly, heart thrumming like a frantic animal caught in a trap. There, emerging from the shadows, was the woman again, her face suddenly marred with an expression of pity and urgency. "You don't understand," she breathed, her voice tight with emotion. "The darkness, it's not finished with you yet." And with those words, the world shifted once more, and my heart sank, struggling against the tidal wave of fear. Would I ever find peace, or was I destined to live within this storm forever? The sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating playful patterns on the forest floor, but the warmth didn't penetrate the chilling grip of dread tightening around me. Daisy nuzzled against me, her soft warmth a reminder that I wasn't entirely alone, yet my heart was a cavern of uncertainty, echoing with the ominous words of the woman, "The darkness, it's not finished with you yet." I wanted to believe that I had emerged victorious, that I had pushed back the shadows, but the stillness of the forest felt deceptive, and as I held Daisy close, I could almost sense the looming presence behind me, a shadow lurking just out of sight. It was suffocating, constricting my breath. I forced myself to turn and confront the woman, her figure now a silhouette against the grandeur of the trees. "Why are you here?" I asked, each word feeling heavy on my tongue. "What do you mean by that?" She stepped forward, and I noticed the tremor in her voice, the weight of something unsaid resting heavily between us. "You've faced a fragment of your past, yes, but deeper truths lie buried, truths you still need to confront. The light you tapped into is potent, but it draws power from your understanding of yourself. You've only seen the surface." The vulnerability in her tone disarmed me. I could see the threat in her eyes, not of malicious intent, but of alarm. My mind raced with fragments of memories, moments of loss, pain, and isolation that had shaped me into who I was today. Was there more hidden away in the recesses of my soul? "I don't understand," I said, frustration seeping into my voice. "What do I need to face? Isn't the battle over?" "Battles don't end when you close your eyes to them," she replied, her expression softening. "You cannot outrun the shadows, they are a part of you. They will keep returning until you reconcile with them." A shiver coursed through me, and the forest felt alive with a sudden tension. As if sensing my turmoil, Daisy nudged her muzzle into my hand, grounding me with the pure, unwavering love that only a companion could offer. It was a small flicker of hope amidst the dark thoughts spiraling in my mind, a reminder that not all connections were tainted by fear. "Can you walk with me?" I asked, a surge of necessity guiding my words. "Help me find whatever it is I need to confront." Her eyes narrowed slightly, registering the reluctance swirling in my heart. "It could lead you to places you're not prepared for." "I don't care," I exclaimed, a rush of defiance igniting my spirit. "If I have any hope of leaving this behind, I need to confront it." She studied me for a moment, and I felt the tremble in my voice, the desperation pooling within. Finally, she nodded, stepping aside as if granting passage into an uncertain future. "Then follow me. But be wary, what you face may change everything." That we walked in silence, the tranquil beauty of the forest wrapping around us like a cloak. Each rustling leaf and far-off call of nature felt heightened, alive with the whispers of the past begging for acknowledgement. Together, we journeyed deeper into the woods, and with each step, I felt the weight of the woman's words press upon me, reminders of storms I had buried under years of solitude. Eventually, the trees parted, revealing a clearing that pulsated with an otherworldly energy. It felt sacred and unbearably heavy all at once. In the center lay a stone pedestal, an ancient weathered piece worn smooth by time, almost beckoning to me. On it was an object wrapped in cloth, a bundle that seemed to pulsate with familiarity, even from a distance. "What is that?" I asked, my heart racing. Fear and intrigue waged war inside me. your past," the woman said softly. "Unravel its layers, and you may find the answers you seek. Yet be warned, the truth can hurt, and it often reveals more than we wish to see." With a trembling hand, I reached for the bundle, pulling away the cloth to reveal a small, tattered journal, the edges frayed, the pages yellowed with age. It felt oddly comforting, yet terrifying, as if it were a thread connecting me to a part of myself long buried. "Open it," the woman urged. Gently, with Daisy by my side, I opened the first page, the familiar handwriting unfolding before me, a narrative of joy intertwined with regret, moments of love shattered by loss, a cascade of memories I had long tossed aside in search of solace. As I read, each word awakened echoes of laughter and tears, moments that encapsulated the very fabric of my existence. Suddenly, an image struck me, a name printed between the lines, a face flickering against the backdrop of my mind. The realization struck like a thunderclap: it was someone I had lost, someone who had held pieces of my heart. The memory threatened to drown me. It was not just a name but an entire story that punctured the carefully constructed walls of my mind. A wave of grief crashed over me, raw and unrelenting, and a single tear escaped, cascading down my cheek. "I thought I had buried this," I whispered, realizing the truth I had hidden, thinking I was protecting myself. The woman watched with a deep understanding that pierced through the veils of my shame. "To heal, you must embrace all parts of yourself, those you love, those you miss. What you've hidden away does not make you weak, it makes you human." But even as I stood on the precipice of revelation, the shadows began to pool around us, rising like creeping vines from the forest floor. A sense of foreboding washed over me, anger wrapping its tendrils around my heart. "It's happening again," I gasped, my pulse quickening. The shadows threatened not just visibility, but the very heartbeat of my revelation, encroaching with a vengeance, reminding me that the journey of love and healing was anything but straightforward. "Stay strong," the woman shouted above the rising chorus of whispers, as the darkness surged toward us. But just as I felt the chill of despair radiate outward, I remembered Daisy, anchored by her loyalty at my side. "We can face this together," I cried out, summoning every ounce of strength from her unwavering affection and the fragile yet fierce love I had felt for those I had lost. And then I saw the form of the shadow taking shape, coalescing into something that resembled the figure from my past, the face I had long mourned. Panic fluttered in my chest, but the woman beside me remained steadfast, guiding me toward an understanding: "Whoever you confront here is not your enemy. You must find peace, not just for you but for them." I closed my eyes, feeling a rush of air and the warmth of Daisy's comforting presence, and as I did, I felt an unmistakable familiarity. "I'm ready," I whispered, the journal clenched tightly in my hand. But before I could summon the courage to face the shadow, a crack split through the air, loud and harrowing. From behind the veil of darkness, a name echoed, striking me at my core like a thunderous truth, a name I had never wanted to cross my lips again: "Mom." I gasped as confusion intertwined with recognition, and I felt the world shift yet again. This time it was more than overwhelming, it was a reckoning. The ground felt unstable beneath my feet, and I braced myself for the sheer force of the memories crashing over me, while grappling with the revelation that the journey to love was heavily burdened by pieces of my past I had never wanted to face. As the shadow loomed closer, I realized not all confrontations would lead to peace. Some would shatter me irrevocably, demanding I embrace the chaos of love in its entirety. And as the shadows began to encircle my heart, I faced the unthinkable truth: could I survive loving someone I had lost, or would letting them in reveal something I wasn't ready to face? The forest thickened as my breath hitched at the sound of the name. It rippled through my being, better than any echo, reverberating in the very marrow of my bones. "Mom!" I shouted again, the syllables tasting foreign on my tongue, laced with the bitterness of long-held resentment and muted sorrow. Daisy snuggled closer, as if sensing the tidal wave of emotion surging within me. Her comforting presence, however unwavering, felt insufficient against the weight of those years unspoken and cloistered in shadow. The silhouette in the dark began to materialize before me, hazy and uncertain. It shifted and morphed with every heartbeat, intertwining with tendrils of shadow that flickered menacingly at the edges of my consciousness. "What do you want from me?" I implored, my voice a fragile thread tethered to sanity. "Not what I want," came a soft voice, striking me with the warmth of familiarity and the cold chill of loss. The figure stepped into the light, and there she was, the mother I remembered, bathed in the glow of forgotten memories. The corners of her mouth held the ghost of a smile, one that could melt glaciers but also caused my heart to ache with the weight of all the things left unsaid. "That I never thought I would find you here," I murmured, the defiance that had burned within me gradually extinguishing against the rekindled warmth of her presence. Her eyes held a sorrowing depth, reflecting not just her heart but also the rift that had been torn between us. "I am a part of you, even in the shadows, always have been. Are you ready to bring me into the light?" For a moment, I considered breaking the chains of silence, silently gripping the college kid's journal that still lay heavy in my hand. I wasn't ready then. How can I be ready now? A gentle breeze rustled the leaves around us, and I could almost hear a chorus of encouragement within. The little dog wasn't just a guide, she was a bridge, linking me to this moment, reminding me that all things begin small. The healing, the love, the acceptance. "That I am so sorry," I whispered at last. The words clawed their way up my throat, only to become ensnared in the tangled web of wounds we had both suffered. "I tried to forget, tried to survive by pretending you didn't exist." Her expression shifted, a mix of empathy and 1,000 emotions playing out in the crinkles around her eyes. "You thought burying me would help you heal, but all it did was create a chasm." As I stared into those eyes, the flickers of light from the surrounding trees cast distorted shapes on the ground. I remembered every "I love you" left unspoken, every hug that turned into silence. The agony of her absence had become a fortress, challenging me to break its walls. Just as a soft tear slipped down my cheek, I caught the movement of shadows slithering closer. "No," I groaned, stepping back instinctively, the weight of guilt creeping back in like an unwelcome tide. "I can't do this, you must feel," she urged. "Whatever darkness is coming, we can freeze the fear together. Choose to embrace the love you've avoided. Love that transcends even loss." With a deep breath, I found my conviction falter. Fear threatened to suffocate hope. The thoughts of how I had been wronged, how we could have differed, loomed dangerously. But with Daisy standing fiercely at my side, I remembered the tender moments of joy that flared within me, the love that sparked hope. What choice was more powerful than to embrace that mirrored love? Clinging to the journal, I opened it to a page filled with my words, my life, now a living testament of love lost and transformed. "I want to understand you," I stated, voice steadying. "I want to learn how to love all over again." The shadows paused, sensing the shift in the air. My mother's figure radiated warmth that melted the darkness coiling around us. "Then look close, because the love we had doesn't end, it evolves. Let's create a new story, together," she whispered. Suddenly, from out of the corner of my eye, a flicker of movement caught my attention. I turned, confusion erupting into panic. A dark shadow had taken form behind the silhouette. Twisting and snarling. A voice broke through the disorientation, reverberating ominously, "Why must you dwell in the past, Samantha?" It was the last thing I needed to hear, the mocking tone of a deep, resounding fear that threatened to unravel everything. In that moment, clarity emerged as I faced the raw truth. "Leave me be," I shouted, as the shadow lashed out, hurtling toward me with blinding speed. As I clutched the journal to my chest, bracing myself for the blow, the woman beside me stepped forward, the shadows draping around her as she did. "I will not let you take her," she cried, defiantly standing before me, the barrier of light emanating from her form a counter to the encroaching darkness. And then, as if time stood still, I felt a surge of power flow through me, very tears shed over every love lost, every ounce of joy recalled and cherished, igniting a flame within my chest. I took a step forward, no longer allowing myself to be defined solely by pain. At that moment, I screamed into the void, "Mom, I'm ready to let go of the shadows. I will face our past together." With that declaration, the darkness recoiled, the tendrils pulling back as I willed myself to lean into the light of connection, readying myself for whatever reunion awaited us. But just as I thought peace would stitch the frayed edges of my heart, the truth hit me harder than any shadow. If I let her in, what part of myself will I be left with? I gasped, the echo of uncertainty roaring back. But now, I wasn't standing alone. Across the clearing, the shadow loomed larger than I could have ever anticipated, swirling with a dreadful energy, conspiring to fracture the fragile connection I'd reforged. As it twisted, a final proclamation echoed through the grove, igniting sheer panic within me, sharing that love comes at a price, Samantha. Are you truly ready to pay it? Caught in the throes of despair and resolve, I found myself asking the one foundational question: could I emerge from this darkness, shattered yet whole, or would the past swallow me whole, forever severing the ties I had begun to mend? The forest loomed heavier, the whispering trees now warning with creaks that felt like heartbreak echoing through the silence. The shadows flickered ominously where the darkness had receded, but I couldn't turn away from the warmth beside me, the unwavering light of my mother. Love is beautiful but complicated, she said softly, her words wrapping around my heart like a tender embrace. You must choose to forgive, not just me but yourself too. As her gaze pierced through the shifting shadows, I fought the urge to pull away from her. Did I truly have it in me to allow this light, her light, into my heart again? The question hung painfully in the air. That I haven't the faintest idea what forgiveness looks like, I confessed, my voice trembling as I pressed the journal tighter to my chest, cradling it as though it were my own fractured spirit. Every time I think I'm making progress, the shadows pull me back. Her expression was both gentle and filled with an understanding that transcended human limits. That's part of it, Samantha. The journey requires courage, and it's okay to feel lost amid the layers of pain and love. Another rumble of laughter cracked through the shadows, icy and mocking, cascading into a crescendo that felt less like surround sound and more like an echo from deep within the abyss. You wish to reach for the light with hands soiled by grief? It taunted. What hope do you possess in breaking free? Before I could respond, Daisy, my loyal companion, darted forward from my side, barking fiercely, her tiny frame defiant against the dark encroachment. She seemed to sense that this moment was pivotal, a line in the sand dividing despair from hope. Reasons for doubt flooded through me, yet amidst the fear, I also felt a flicker of warmth igniting beneath the surface once more. My mother's presence stirred something vast within me, opening doorways I had long sealed, nurturing, carefree summers spent laughing against the sun, late-night conversations filled with endless dreams of the future, the way she embraced me whenever life felt unbearable, turning to Daisy, seeing her fierce bravery stoked embers of courage within me. You're right, I said, hoping the strength in my voice would resonate against the taunts. I will reach for love, but I will not deny my pain. They both exist in me, the darkness hissed in response, coiling closer, growing aggressive, as if recognizing the spark ignited within me. But at what cost, Samantha? The voice oozed with the cruelty of a broken promise, probing the softest points of my vulnerability. Are you equipped to stomach the truth of what you've hidden? I took a shuddering breath, feeling as though the entire forest held its collective breath on the precipice of revelation, of both fear and determination. I would rather hurt from the truth than be devoured by the shadows, I replied, finally infusing my words with resolve. In the depths of my mother's eyes, I found flickers of pride, a subtle reminder that this was a choice I'd have to make, not only to honor her memory but to forge my own identity. I began to decipher that love without understanding could fracture within, yet love with the foundation of truth could heal. That I am ready to face whatever lies within the shadows, I declared, a hint of the crescendo in my tone reflecting the resolve building within. But I won't pay a price that demands I forsake my heart. The shadows seemed to bubble and churn with rage but recoiled, flickering as if struggling against my undeniable stance. Then let us see what you uncover, let us probe the depths together, it hissed, its voice laden with bitterness. I felt my mother's hand brush against mine, solid and unyielding. I'm here, every step of the way, as long as you hold on to love, she whispered, her warmth wrapping around me like a protective shield against the encroaching dark. Suddenly, a heart-wrenching cry broke through the fog of darkness. Daisy, caught in a fray as the shadows reached for her, stretching toward the brave little dog who stood valiantly at my feet. No! I exclaimed, the horror of loss clawing at the edges of my resolve. Protect her! I shouted, heart racing as I lunged forward, panic sparking within me, threatening to fracture the newfound clarity in my heart. Daisy! Hold on! My mother commanded, the urgency in her voice igniting strength within me. I turned back to her, fear flooding through me as realization struck. You must not let fear drive you back. Do not lose sight of what matters. In that instant, as the shadows lunged again, I chose. With Daisy sightless in the murky grasp of terror, I embraced my mother's light, channeling every ounce of hope, love, and memory I held. We choose life. The darkness recoiled one final time, a deafening howl echoing through the trees. The connection between my mother and my heart burned brightly, and together we faced the looming shadows, the clutching fears that sought to fracture everything I fought to rebuild. But just before the shadows dissipated completely, a chilling thought pierced my heart. What if the truth I cherished led to devastation I was unprepared to bear? As fear whispered its last tendrils against my resolve, I clutched the journal tightly, already knowing that it was more than the tales of our past, it was the key to my survival. That I am ready to know the truth. I yelled into the thin air, chaos whirling around me as the shadows grew restless again. But still, I stood firm, refusing to let them seep into my heart. And then I felt a sudden shift in the atmosphere, a breeze flowing through the clearing. The journal vibrated against my chest, striking me like a jolt, revealing deep within me the question that echoed louder than any other. In that crucial instant, deep uncertainty coiled around the edges of my soul, and the unwelcome ache bubbled to the surface, leaving me hollow. What if loving you exposes not just the truth of our past, but something far darker I've buried within myself? The answer echoed sinister and thick as the shadows twisted impossibly closer. I realized with a new clarity that some truths would lead to discovery, but some would also bear the weight of shattered realities I wasn't ready to unveil. The shadows swirled around us, a chaotic ballet of darkness and doubt, their tendrils whispering lies I had long fought to silence. But amidst the fear, a beacon of clarity began to pierce through the love I feared losing again, the love that had sparked a flicker of hope within. Your past does not define you, my mother said softly, her voice reaching through the veil of darkness like sunlight breaking dawn. Each choice you make now shapes the future. Do not be afraid of what lies ahead. Trust in your strength. Taking a deep breath, I felt the warmth of her presence bolstering my resolve. Daisy pressed against my leg, her small body a comforting weight that anchored me, reminding me that my journey was not just for myself but for every soul I had loved and lost along the way. You are my light in this darkness, I murmured, my heart swelling as I looked down at her, the embodiment of unwavering loyalty. With renewed determination, I stepped forward, willing to confront the darkest depths of my fears. I won't let you win. I will not be imprisoned by my past. I shouted, a defiance boiling up from within. The shadows recoiled, their anger palpable, swirling with a fury that threatened to consume everything in its path. That I choose love. I cried, feeling the truth of those words resonate like thunder in the silence. I choose connection, vulnerability, and forgiveness. The air shifted, crackling with energy as my voice echoed through the clearing. In that moment, I felt a force greater than fear gripping at my heart, a surge of love that transcended the darkness. It dawned on me then, the weight of my journey was not just to confront my past but to embrace the love that would guide me through every shadow. That I in unison, Daisy barked as if rallying alongside me, her spirit a testament to the bonds formed in innocent trust. Together. I affirmed, and I felt the shadows rear back, their power less formidable under the strength of our unity. As I clutched the journal, I opened my heart to the memories penned within, the laughter, the sorrow, the late-night talks, and the long-lost embraces. Each page flickered alive with stories of strength and resilience, lifting the corners of my mouth into a faint smile, yet anchored by the weight of acceptance. Those moments were mine, they were real, and they would light my path forward. With grit in my spirit, I raised the journal high as a shield, channeling all the memories of love and loss captured within its pages. I will not be diminished. I am the sum of every memory, every pulse of this world. You have no power over me. I roared as the shadows surged, trying to pull me down, clawing at my certainty. The rumbling shadows recoiled, trembling as if they were no longer a single entity, but a reflection of every fragmented fear I had ever harbored. And just as the darkness lunged toward me, my mother's voice echoed with strength. Face the truth, Samantha. Know that we are nothing without the love we forge and the memories we cherish. Mom, I gasped, clinging to the truth she had imparted. It struck me clear as a lightning bolt, the shadows would remain as long as I clung to guilt and regret. I had to resolve not just for her, but for myself, and finally give voice to the words I had denied for far too long. That I forgive you, I breathed softly, the words spilling from my heart. For every moment we lost, for every unspoken regret. And I forgive myself for hiding from the love we shared, for thinking I could erase you from my life. A wave of warmth enveloped me, washing over the scattered remnants of fear, illuminating the shadows that cowered and flickered uncertainly. And in that moment of vulnerability, the darkness began to dissipate like morning mist rising to the sun, revealing the path before me. With awe, I felt something shift within the space, a deep, resounding peace that settled like an embrace around my heart. The shadows fled, evaporating into tendrils of smoke that drifted away, leaving behind an air of serenity, but it was the sound of footsteps that drew my attention. Out of the dimness emerged the woman. Again, her presence radiant. You were brave, Samantha. You faced what many never dare to acknowledge, she said proudly, offering a soft smile. Suddenly, my heart caught in my throat, and I scanned the clearing, searching Daisy. I whispered, my voice cracking. The weight of dread resumed its grip, fearful that I would wake from this dream, only to discover that the bond had shattered. But as if sensing my need, a shining light broke through the trees, and there running toward me was Daisy, joyfully bounding through the wood, leaping into my arms. You came back. I gasped, clutching her to my chest in pure relief. Her soft fur, the rhythmic beating of her heart against mine, it was the embodiment of loyalty I never wanted to lose again. That I learned that love doesn't sink, I said, tears blurring my vision. It simply transforms, and I am grateful for every moment we share together. Daisy wagged her tail, the warmth of unconditioned affection wrapping me in its embrace. As I looked up, I saw my mother step forward, her presence now interwoven with the sunshine spilling through the branches, illuminating the clearing with warmth that engulfed every shadow. Thank you, I whispered, heart opened wide, everything I yearned to express flowing freely. She smiled, softening into light, before her shadow flitted away into the forest's embrace, leaving me with something far more powerful than grief: understanding. With what had been lost now transformed and embraced, the bond remained unbroken, weaving its way into the fabric of my heart, and as I stood there surrounded by the essence of what love meant, the mountains echoed back my promise, and I knew life would never again be just sorrow or despair. This was my journey, the embodiment of all that love meant, and no shadow could ever extinguish that truth. I, in the depths of the wilderness, surrounded by the whispers of memory and the harmony of healing, I found what I had sought all along: the love that would carry forth, woven together through both the shadows and the light. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, I grasped Daisy tightly, and with an exhalation of joy and acceptance, I finally whispered the words deep within me: the past is a part of me, but it will never define who I am becoming. In that moment, with each beat of my heart reflecting newfound hope, I felt the world around us resonate with freedom: the freedom to love boldly, to walk through shadows, and to embrace a future glimmering with possibilities yet to unfold.